McKay told Front Office Sports. That kind of set the tone for the conversation because we were hoping to hear otherwise. McKay said the 3-hour meeting was instead spent both sides explaining the thinking behind their recent proposals. One of the main priorities, according to one source familiar with the negotiation, was to allow players and owners to connect and ask questions.
The WNBA is on the brink of collapse, and what just happened in a 3-hour meeting in New York might have sealed the league's fate. Owners walked into the room, sat down across from the players' union, and then dropped a bombshell that left everyone stunned. They had no counterproposal. Nothing. After weeks of anticipation, after all the posturing and public statements, the league's most powerful figures showed up to the most critical negotiation of the year and essentially said, "We're done talking. The clock is ticking."
How many of the most unlikable individuals in the league we can all put in one room that actually can't stand the most popular talent they have in the entire league? I've said this. They've got the worst people representing them in this. It needs to be Caitlin Clark, and we all know it, right? Now, I think this is interesting.
There are less than 100 days until the season is supposed to start, and right now, the two sides aren't just far apart on money. They can't even agree on whether they're negotiating in good faith anymore. This is a negotiation falling apart in real time, and the entire future of women's professional basketball might be hanging in the balance. Let me paint the picture of what actually went down. According to Nick Agume's statement to Front Office Sports, the tone was set almost immediately, and it wasn't good. They were hoping to hear progress, hoping to see
Abrams. Just the most unlikable league ever. AFL-CIO President Liz Schuler were also on the call and ended with support of the WNBPA. So Stacey Abrams was in on the call for the players. Do you guys want...
hoping for compromise. Instead, they got 3 hours of both sides explaining their recent proposals. Not negotiating, not finding middle ground, just explaining what they'd already said before. One source close to the situation said the main priority was simply allowing players and owners to connect and ask questions of each other. Think about that for a second. The most important meeting of this entire process. And the goal was just to let people talk to each other like it was some kind of corporate team-building exercise.
You guys want to grow your sport at all? It's like, can we get the most extreme individuals, most radical individuals in existence involved? You might as well just put Bad Bunny in there. Was Bad Bunny in on the call? Question mark.
The WNBA Players Union sat across from league owners for 3 full hours, and the owners literally brought nothing new to the table. And the reaction from the union representatives tells you everything you need to know about where this is headed. But here's where it gets really messy. Let's talk about who actually showed up to represent the players, because the optics of this are absolutely catastrophic. The players brought Brianna Stewart, Nneka Ogwumike, Brianna Turner, and Alicia Clark. Solid representatives, sure. But here's the kicker. The 2 biggest names who were supposed to show up in person, Kelsey Plum.
Based on recent reports, the league has proposed a significantly higher salary structure with a maximum compensation potentially approaching $1.3 million to nearly $2 million over the life of the deal. They're making a point to only say $1.3 million because they're trying to empower the players. Well, it's just $1.3 million. Well, it's nearly $2 million by the end of the deal.
And Nafisa Collier, they didn't even bother getting on a plane. They dialed in via Zoom instead. This is supposed to be the most important meeting of the entire negotiation process, the moment where careers and livelihoods hang in the balance. And her star representatives couldn't be bothered to actually show up. They joined from their laptops while sitting on their couches somewhere. The message that sends is staggering. If the players themselves don't think this meeting is important enough to attend in person, why should the owners take their demands seriously? And it gets even worse. You know who else was on that call? Politician Stacey Abrams. That's right, a politician
who were unable to attend in person. By the way, Kathy Engelbert, was involved, as well as some others, and I already named some of these. All right, so earlier in the day, it was reported that there was strong debate occurring
with absolutely no background in sports labor negotiation, someone known primarily for her work in progressive activism, was brought in to support the players' union position. The AFL-CIO president, Liz Schuler, also joined to express solidarity with the WNBPA. Now, stop and think about what message that sends to the league owners who are already offering to quadruple player salaries. The players aren't bringing sports economists. They're not bringing salary cap experts. They're not bringing financial analysts who understand the business of basketball. They're bringing political activists
among members of the WNBPA 7-team executive. All right, talking about one group believes the time is now to stand firm in the pursuit of the revamped revenue model. The other is less inclined to pursue
to a business negotiation. The disconnect is absolutely staggering. On one side of the table, you have owners who've put a concrete offer down. We're talking about maximum salaries reaching $1.3 million by year one, then scaling up to nearly $2 million by the end of the deal. That's an 8 to 9 times increase from current max salaries. On the other side, you have a union that's demanding a complete overhaul of the revenue sharing model and brought politicians to make their case. The gap between these two positions isn't just wide. It's a canyon. Now, here's something that
the owners to the meeting, and you all can't get your PA team to show up on time. Unprofessional. Dumbest group of women to ever lead a negotiation, honestly. Whomever is advising or filing their head with images of grandeur should be fired.
ESPN and front office sports keep conveniently leaving out of their coverage, and it's driving me absolutely crazy. They keep citing that $1.3 million figure for maximum player compensation, making it sound modest, making it sound reasonable compared to NBA salaries. But that's just the starting point. By the final year of the proposed CBA, max salaries would approach $2 million. That's the number that matters, and these outlets are deliberately burying it because it makes the players' demands look completely unreasonable. When you're covering labor negotiations, Journalism 101 says
there's a winning and life-changing money on the table, and these dumbasses want to walk away from the table. Pure greed. Woo! Smoking. Please tell me the WNBA PA didn't go there just to listen to offers.
Always lead with the maximum money involved. That's how this works. The fact that major sports media outlets are intentionally downplaying the owners' offer tells you exactly whose side they're on. They're not reporting the story. They're trying to manufacture public support for a strike. And speaking of strikes, there's something else happening behind closed doors that you need to know about. According to reports, there's a fracture developing within the players' union itself. Strong debate is occurring among members of the WNBPA Executive Committee. We're talking about a split among the 17-member group. One faction believes the time is now to stand firm in the pursuit of
just send Caitlin and Asia to the NBA and call it a day. I mean, it's that's just disrespectful. I think the owners have pretty much made it clear. This is
revamped revenue model, and are prepared to strike if necessary. The other faction is looking at that offer of quadrupled salaries and thinking maybe we should take the win and play basketball. Nneka Ogwumike and Alicia Clark immediately went into damage control mode, denying any division exists. Ogwumike specifically said, "I don't think there's any fracturing. But here's the thing. The fact that union leadership is responding to specific language from YouTube commentary suggests they're way more worried about public perception than they're letting on."
This is our offer. Take it or leave it. It's on the table. And I do believe that outside of the players and unrivaled, I think the rest of the players would take this deal that's on the table right now.
Meanwhile, the owner strategy is becoming crystal clear, and it's a brutal power play. They made their best and final offer, and they're not moving. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and team owners, like Jennifer Rosati from Connecticut and Clara Wu Tsai from New York, showed up to the meeting ready to answer questions and explain.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black.
Their position. But they didn't bring a counterproposal because from their perspective, there's nothing left to counter. The offer is on the table. Take it or leave it. And this power play is backed by cold, hard financial reality. The WNBA has been losing money for years. The league is subsidized by the NBA and has never turned a profit. Not once. The owners are offering to dramatically increase player compensation despite that.
Stephanie Dolson were involved in this meeting as well. Connecticut Sun President Jennifer Rosati, good Lord, she's a Caitlin Clark hater. Matt Amishi and New York Liberty owner Clara Wu Tsai and Sue Bird. Good Lord. I mean, it's
financial reality, betting on future growth driven largely by one player, Caitlin Clark, and she's not even in the room for these negotiations. Let's talk about that for a second, because the irony here is almost too much to handle. The Players' Union is being represented by some of the most polarizing figures in the league. Breanna Stewart, who's been openly critical of how much attention Caitlin Clark receives. Nneka Ogwumike, who's made it abundantly clear she doesn't think the league's growth should be attributed to any single player.
Because they're all in on these players. Getting paid. They're getting paid. Maybe not. Monday's pivotal meeting between the WNBA players and owners at league offices in New York lasted roughly 3 hours before attendees slowly started trickling out. By the way, there's less than 100 days till the start of the season. Quote, they volunteered that they did
Connecticut Sun President Jennifer Rosati, who's been openly dismissive of Clark's impact on the game. These are the people negotiating for a league that just experienced its most successful season ever, driven almost entirely by rookie viewership. The disconnect between who's driving value and who's demanding compensation has never been more obvious. Caitlin Clark brought 3.2 million viewers to games she played in. She's the reason the league is even in a position to offer these increased salaries. And she's not part of the negotiation at all. Instead, Sue Bird is on the call providing commentary.
I mean, it's more bad public perception. Let's just click over. I got some response from fans. Go woke, go broke. The WNBA has already made good offers. Time to take them. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. They gave them the best
despite being retired. You can't make this up. The timeline is getting desperate. The season is supposed to start in less than 100 days. Training camps need to open. Free agency needs to happen. Rosters need to be finalized. None of that can proceed without a CBA in place. And right now, the two sides aren't even negotiating anymore. They're just explaining their positions to each other like they're reading from prepared statements. The owners have made it abundantly clear they're not budging. They believe their offer is more than fair given the league's financial situation, and they're betting that rank-and-file players, the ones who aren't part of the union's executive committee, will eventually pressure leadership to accept the deal because they need to get paid. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most WNBA players can't afford to miss paychecks. They don't have the overseas contracts or endorsement deals that stars like Stewart and Ogwumike rely on. For most of these women, their WNBA salary is their lifeline. The public reaction has been overwhelmingly negative toward the players, and it's brutal. Social media is absolutely filled with comments calling the union's leadership unprofessional, greedy, and completely out of touch with reality. Fans are pointing out that the players are being offered life-changing money, quadruple their current salaries, and they're acting like it's an insult. One comment summed it up perfectly. Who in their right mind would downvote quadrupling their salary to $1.3 million? Another fan wrote, the WNBA is bleeding millions every year, and they want more money. Absolute morons. Just shut the league down. That's harsh, but it reflects a growing sentiment that the players don't understand basic business economics. You can't demand NBA-level revenue sharing when you're not generating NBA-level revenue. The math doesn't work. The most damning comments are the ones suggesting the league should just fold and send Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston to the NBA. That's how frustrated fans have become with the way this negotiation is being handled. They're ready to give up on the entire league rather than watch this dysfunction continue. Let's break down what actually happened in that 3-hour meeting, because the details are even more absurd than you think. According to Nneka Ogwumike's statement to Front Office Sports, the owners volunteered at the start that they didn't have a new proposal prepared. That set the tone for the entire conversation. Both sides spent 3 hours explaining the thinking behind their previous proposals. That's just a polite way of saying they talked past each other for 180 minutes without accomplishing a single thing. And roughly 40 players joined via Zoom to observe. Imagine the dynamic. 40 players watching this negotiation unfold remotely, seeing their union leadership fail to make progress, watching owners refuse to budge, and knowing that their paychecks depend on this getting resolved in the next few months. How many of those 40 players are sitting there thinking, just take the deal so we can play basketball? Here's what makes this situation particularly absurd. The Players' Union is demanding a revenue-sharing model similar to the NBA, where players receive approximately 50% of basketball-related income. But the WNBA doesn't operate like the NBA. The league has never been profitable. It's been subsidized by the NBA since its founding. The owners aren't refusing to share revenue out of greed. They're refusing because there's no revenue to share. You can't split profits that don't exist. The current proposal from the league already represents a massive financial commitment. We're talking about increasing the salary cap, raising maximum salaries from roughly $240,000 to nearly $2 million over the life of the deal, improving travel conditions, increasing per diem allowances, and expanding benefits. All of this while the league continues to operate at a loss. And the players' response is to bring political activists to the negotiating table and talk about striking. The business reality is brutally simple. The league's recent growth is almost entirely attributable to Caitlin Clark. Her games drew massive viewership. Her jersey sales broke records. Her presence drove attendance across the league. She's a rookie making $76,000 this season while generating tens of millions in revenue. If anyone has a legitimate grievance about compensation, it's her. But she's not the one demanding a strike. She's not the one bringing Stacey Abrams to negotiations. She's just playing basketball and letting her game speak for itself. The smart money says this gets resolved because rank-and-file players can't afford a work stoppage. The stars might have overseas options and endorsement income. But most players in the league are living paycheck to paycheck. They need this season to happen. When push comes to shove, they're going to pressure union leadership to accept a deal that quadruples their salaries, even if it doesn't include the revenue-sharing model they want. But there's a real possibility this goes sideways. If union leadership digs in, if they convince enough players that this is about principle rather than pragmatism, we could actually see a strike. And if that happens, the damage to the league would be catastrophic. You'd lose the momentum from Caitlin Clark's rookie season. You'd lose casual fans who just started paying attention. You'd lose sponsors who are finally investing in the product. All because the union couldn't accept an offer that would make every player in the league significantly wealthier. What makes this particularly frustrating is how avoidable it all is. The owners put a generous offer on the table. Not perfect, but generous given the league's financial situation. The players could accept it, play basketball, continue growing the league, and negotiate for more in the next CBA, when hopefully the league is actually profitable. Instead, we're watching a union led by players who seem more interested in making political statements than securing the best possible deal for their membership. The Players' Union is being led by people who view this negotiation through an ideological lens rather than a practical one. They want the WNBA to operate like the NBA with equal revenue sharing and comparable salaries, regardless of whether the financial fundamentals support it. They've brought politicians and labor activists to make their case because they see this as a social justice issue rather than a business negotiation. The problem is the owners are running a business. They're not going to agree to a revenue-sharing model that bankrupts the league just to make a political point. They're offering what they believe the league can afford based on actual revenue and projected growth. That offer includes massive salary increases, improved working conditions, and better benefits. For most businesses, that would be considered a win for labor. But in the current climate around women's sports, accepting anything less than full parity with men's leagues is seen as capitulation. The players' union has backed itself into a corner where accepting the owner's offer would be portrayed as a defeat, even though it would make every player significantly wealthier. That's the trap of turning a business negotiation into a political cause. If the WNBA players' union forces a work stoppage over this, they'll lose the public relations battle badly. Fans will side with the owners, who offered to quadruple salaries. Sponsors will pull back. Media coverage will turn negative. The league's momentum will evaporate. All because the union leadership couldn't separate political ideology from business reality. The next few weeks are absolutely critical. Either the union accepts something close to the owner's current offer, or we're headed for a work stoppage that could set the league back years. The smart play is obvious. Take the deal, play basketball, grow the league, and negotiate for more when you actually have leverage based on profitability rather than potential. But based on who's leading these negotiations and the political activists they've brought to the table, smart plays aren't guaranteed. We might actually watch the WNBA Players Union reject an offer that would make them all significantly wealthier because it doesn't align with their ideological goals. And if that happens, the league that just had its best season ever could implode before Caitlin Clark even plays her second year. So here's the question. Should the players take this deal and play basketball or hold out for revenue sharing, even if it means missing the season? Because those are the only two options left on the table, and the clock is running out.